Hello everybody, this is my Anthropology 101 an essay project, and I will be doing a miniature archaeological dig site. I will be basing it off of ancient Argelos from Greece, and as you can see here on this cool little website, the buildings there are nice and easy and simple to build, just rectangles and squares. Not too difficult. On this other website, there's other ideas that I can use, such as tents and other structures. Just give me some ideas, and I'll be also doing my own little spin-offs on it, just to match my perspectives and how I feel. Some of my materials is sand. I chose sand because that's what the soil there looks like, and the excavation photos, it's hard to find dirt that will match that. And my other materials are a big bin on the far left over there. That's where my display would be. I'll be using salt, a tray with aluminum foil over it to be my little build station. I'll be using miniature people for to mimic the archaeologists, and I'll also be using clay. There's gray and red clay, however I'm only going to be using the gray one. I got the red one as backup, but ended up not needing it. And some little utensils such as cups and spoons for taking out sand, using water, also a bowl as well to be mixing stuff, and that spoon make things easier. So I saw this cool thing online where if you mix sand, salt, and water and let it dry, it holds its structure. The author recommends sea salt, however I'm just using regular table salt, and it came out okay. There isn't much difference, I guess. Like in the picture right there, you can see that could be sea salt, where it's a lot stronger structures. But for me, I'm not building a tower or anything, so I don't really need the sea salt. But it's a lot better than just using water or something to hold the sand's structure. You'll make parts of my model get wet, might lose its integrity over time. I might have to constantly wet it, and that it might make it to where if I shake it or anything, my project, the sand will just lose its structure and fall apart. So that's really, really insecure. Right here is obviously my little model area. I cut out some cardboard and I split into 3 sections. So section 1 is just surface level work. It would just be archaeologists digging on top, discovering things. Section 2 is a bit more dug out. It showed some progress being made, and there'd be a little bit of architecture in there and some archaeologists. And then section 3 will be almost entirely dug out. You will see the entire structure, and just archaeologists just kind of scanning and looking at the place and making documentations and stuff. So now we're jumping into section 1. So as you can see here, I'm creating the salt sand mixture, and what I'm looking for is sand that's not too wet or not too dry. I chose that good in between, so it could a little bit more on the dry side, so it could dry not just faster, but it will be a lot easier to use and to mold for my project. The idea here was to plop it on the tray with the parchment paper. The parchment paper was to stop it from sticking to the tray, because I knew that if salt got on the aluminum, it would stick. So I used the parchment paper, and my idea was to create a slab of sand and then put my little decorations on top. And then for the entire section inside the model was to fill it with sand. This way I didn't have to create a huge cube or block of sand. It would save me time and resources. So just create this little slab, put my details on top. That's all that really matters. That's all you're going to see. Put sand underneath and then just plop it on top when it's done. So this is the final result, my little sand cake. And what I did was I got a kebab stick and I dug out little pieces of the sand, and so when I baked it, it would just hold its structure, its integrity, right? It would solidify, and then the dugouts would stay nice and hard, so when I touched it, it wouldn't just break apart and fall apart on me. So after plopping that in the oven, our little sand cake log thingy, I got the gray clay out, and this one was going to be our pottery mimic on the sand, for the archaeologists. And so I'm just flattening it out, I'm just stretching it out, making it as thin as I can, and just have it dry as fast as I can and make it thin so it doesn't look huge on our very tiny miniature archaeologists. So this is it after coming out of the oven. As you can see, the top is nice and hard and crystallized. It held its shape. However, it started cracking because for some reason the inner part didn't hold its shape. It was just like regular sand. It didn't solidify like I thought it would. So my plan was to still try to use it as a slab. I filled up the model with sand, and then I was trying to plop it in there as nicely as I could, keeping its structure, but it just didn't hold. It broke way too much. So I went screw it. I plopped all the sand in there, and then just started molding. I flattened it out, make it fit everywhere, make it nice, and then I started molding the holes for my miniature archaeologists, and I was kind of glad it was like this, so the sand wouldn't be too wet. Like if I just mixed it right away and then plopped it in there, it would take forever to dry. So this way the sand wasn't too wet and it could still dry, and I still could get the same outcome that I wanted, because since there's no salt, it would crystallize. So right here is an update on our sand. So as you can see, the first part is nice and solidified. It's really hard. It's holding its shape, and there wasn't much movement on it. And I found a heating bulb, which is great. Could use it to dry things without having to use an oven. And I also use it to dry the clay for a little bit. While drying, I also kind of curve the clay a little bit to give that pottery curvature that we see sometimes. And here's me working on the second part, and so I'm just making the salt sand mixture. My goal was to it is to create almost like a valley where I'm putting sands on all sides and kind of looking like a full dugout area. And right in the middle, right in the center, would be clay architecture. So you will see a bit of the building to show that these miniature architectures that I will be putting in later are making progress and they're finding things. So yeah, right here in this part, you can see that I've discovered the ability to use light. I just used the heating lamp and I replaced it with a regular light bulb. For some reason I didn't think about this until right now, but yeah, I used it for proper lighting and it works great. As you can see here, I'm trying to just level it out, really put sand everywhere, make it look really nice, sort of, not perfect, because earth and nature is not perfect. So I'm just laying everything out nicely, making it look as clean as I can get it, because the architecture will be mostly straight. So the nicer this area looks, the cleaner it is, and the smoother it is will make the whole building process a lot easier. So at this point, I finished laying out the next little dugout area, and right now I'm actively working on the clay. As you see here, I'm stretching it out, making it flat to my thickness, desired thickness, and then I cut it up with a kebab stick, and so I can get these nice little square and rectangular pieces, and then I just lay them out in the sand. Now, this part was really challenging. It was hard laying it out in the sand because kind of wouldn't stay, kind of wouldn't stick. I had to kind of play with it a little bit, but I eventually got there, and this is the final product. So as you can see, it kind of looks like a grid line, but yeah, I like how it looks. It's not too bad. I can fit my archaeologist in there. I can probably make it look prettier throughout the time, but right now I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Right here I'm working on step 3. So instead of laying it on the sand again, I decided to create the clay and then the clay walls, and then lay it out on that piece of cardboard right there. Just lay it on there, and then the plan was to put sand underneath it, inside the model itself, and then plop that clay, building architecture right on top, and then fill up the sides to make it look pretty, and as well as the floors. So you can see here me doing the same steps of creating like a little ball and then smushing it and spraying it out. Yeah, right there you can see me adding a lot of water and just squishing it out, playing with it, making it as flat as I can, as nice as I can get it, laying it out, and then just cutting it up so I can get these nice long rectangular and square shaped clay pieces. And then I just lay them out all over the cardboard, and in a bit, right there, you can see me making it look nice, molding all the walls and all the edges and all the lines together so it looks like really nice and smooth and seamless. The building in real life would not be looking like this. Obviously there will be some imperfections, however, this is just to keep the integrity of my project together. It's just so when it dries, it won't split, or there won't be moments where it will split off and just break. But yeah, as you can see right here, this is what it looked like after all that. I'm gonna add 2 more walls, so then you can get 6 rooms instead of 2. So you can see me doing that right there, just adding on the pieces of clay. And first I cut them out so then they would match, and then I wet all the sides that would be touching the clay, and then I would just slowly wet my fingers and use bits of clay to spread on the edges, right on the corners, the edges, and even on the bottom, right, that's on contact with the clay. When you put it on there, there's like some little gaps, so I did that just to be sure. I put some clay and used some water and kind of really blended it in, because I was really scared of it drying out or something happening and then it just splits away. So here you can see I'm using braided fishing line, and I'm cutting out little some of the walls outside of or not outside, cutting some walls out of my little architecture, and this is just to show like the wear on the building itself, like most times when you find these buildings, they're not going to be perfect. There's not going to be perfect walls and everything's sealed and airtight. Like as you can see here, right? There's going to be some walls broken, some walls missing, and um, just imperfections, right? So I really wanted to encapsulate that. So here is the end result. I really like how it came out. It looked a lot better than I thought. I think this was a really nice touch to it. I think if I left it how I did, just like not touching the walls or anything, it wouldn't have done it justice. So I enjoyed what I did there. So right here, you can see me making pottery. It's very, very efficient way. So this is the update on our structure for section 3. As you can see, it dried and there's some little cracks. However, there was a big issue while drying. It started shrinking and curving. I didn't expect this or think about this when doing it, but I'm guessing the clay and the cardboard started shrinking when drying, causing it to bend like this. But I did get some of the cracks that I wanted, that I was looking for, so at least that's nice. But I'm just continuing with what I was planning on doing in the first place, which was just putting sand on the bottom, throwing the structure on top, and then filling up the sides with sand, and also the insides as well. I wanted to cover the floors to make sure that you couldn't see the cardboard and the little clay parts that I obviously got everywhere, and to make it look a bit more barren and dirty. I moved back to section 1. So what I'm doing here is I'm filling up the holes with sand just a little bit. I personally believe that they were too deep, way too deep. So I filled up just a little bit to show that it's still stage 1, and I put in a little bit of water because the surface started to crack. I'm pretty sure there's a lack of salt, because I've been throwing so much water and sand on top. But yeah, the integrity is getting a little weak. But right now I'm just decorating a little bit. There's my little pottery pieces. I'm just decorating a little bit by putting the guys wherever I see fit. I'm just putting out a layout on where I like things to be, how I like things to look, before I really do like a big finale with my placements. So I'll give a little few fun facts about ancient Argolis. Ancient Argolis was a rich Greek colony in northern Greece, founded in 654 BC. It was one of the earliest Greek settlements in the Strymon River region, and it was a very wealthy trading hub. They were located near a lot of gold and silver mines, and they traded a lot with the Thracians and Macedonians. They have well-preserved structures as well. Digs have unearthed buildings that had walls that were up to 4 meters high, and including 5-meter wide streets. Some buildings showed residential units and buildings that were serving as dispensary or mini hospitals, and there were also unique complexes of shops with 10 to 12 units in some of them. However, it was destroyed by Philip II in 357 BC. So back to my project. You can see me here chopping up a toothpick to create these tiny little stakes. This was to wrap string around it and create the 5x5 grid that I stated that archaeologists like to do in order to have more organized digging at excavation sites. So what I did next was I cut up some string, and then I got a little piece. I put hot glue on one end, and then I wrapped the string around the hot glue area. And at first I did that to create a square, so then I can put it over one of the little dig sites on section 1. And then I just did a very simple version where I just put got 2 stakes, put 1 string on them, and then I just put it across to create a 5x5 grid. Very easy. So as you can see right here, this is the result of that. I did want to do it on the other dig site as well. However, this was really hard to do. It was probably the hardest thing I did on this whole project. But yeah, these are the results, and I'm very happy with my end result. And thank you for watching.